Hi there, friends. How is everybody doing today? How are you feeling? I will tell you that I am feeling super joyful. Now, part of the reason I'm feeling joyful is because it got kind of nice outside and I got to spend more time outside. And the other thing that is bringing me great joy, look it's our flowers. Remember how you got this bucket, hopefully at your house? And I hope that you had a chance to plant your bulbs. Yours probably aren't this big yet, but they will get big really fast. And last week we didn't have any flowers yet. And this week we do. So that's bringing me great joy. Now, one of the things that you might notice is one of my flowers is drooping. And that's because this is pretty heavy. This flower is pretty heavy for the plant to hold up. So today, I'm just going to show you something super simple that you can do to hold your plants up. I have a little piece of string, right here. And I'm just going to wrap it super loosely around kind of the top part of my plants. And all that's going to do is help our plants work together to hold each other up, right? So it's not tied around any one plant. It's just tied around the whole bunch, and it'll help everybody hold each other up. I think there's a lesson in there somewhere, don't you think? So we'll put our flowers over there that are causing me great joy, and then I'll tell you the other things that we're going to do today. So we have one more story to read, and then we're still doing kind of random acts of kindness. So I have another really fun idea that you can do to share some kindness with somebody else. And then we will close by looking at our ritual for Lent that was also in your Lenten bucket. All right, so let's get started. Where is my lighter? Here it is. So the first thing that we always do is we light our candle. And this is our Christ candle that we used at Advent. And it is there to just remind us that Jesus and God are with us all the time, even in the really hard places. So now let's take a look at the story that I picked for this week. This story is called Amazing Grace. And what we're going to learn with this story is that there's something very special that Grace wants to be able to do. And two people in her class tell her that she isn't qualified to do it. And there are two different reasons that they think she's not qualified. So see if you can listen carefully and let me know what you think Grace was not qualified, the reasons that Grace was not qualified to do those things. All right? And then we'll review at the end of the story, okay? Let's get started. Amazing Grace is written by Mary Hoffman, and the pictures are illustrated by Caroline Bench. Grace was a girl who loved stories. She didn't mind if they were read to her or told to her or made up in her own head. She didn't care if they were in books or movies or out of Nana's long memory. Grace just loved stories. After she had heard them, and sometimes while they were still going on, Grace would act them out, and she always gave herself the most exciting part. Grace went into battle as Joan of Arc and wove a wicked web as Anansi the spider. She hid inside the wooden horse at the gates of Troy. She went exploring for lost kingdoms. She sailed the 7 seas with a peg leg and a parrot. She was Hiawatha, sitting by the shining big sea water, and Mowgli in the backyard jungle. Most of all, Grace loved to act out adventure stories and fairy tales. When there was no one else around, Grace played all the parts herself. She set out to seek a fortune with no companions but her trusty cat, and found a city with streets paved in gold. Or she was Aladdin, rubbing his magic lamp to make the genie appear. Sometimes she could get Ma and Nana to join in when they weren't too busy. Then she was Dr. Grace, and their lives were in her hands. One day, Grace's teacher said they would do the play Peter Pan. Grace knew who she wanted to be. When she raised her hand, Raj said, "You can't be Peter. That's a boy's name." But Grace kept her hand up. "You can't be Peter," whispered Natalie. "He isn't black." But Grace kept her hand up. "All right," said the teacher. "Lots of you want to be Peter Pan, so we'll have auditions next week to choose parts." She gave them words to learn. When Grace got home, she seemed sad. "What's the matter?" asked Ma. "Raj said I can't be Peter Pan because I'm a girl." "That just shows what Raj knows," said Ma. "A girl can be Peter Pan if she wants to." Grace cheered up. Then later, she remembered something else. "Natalie says I can't be Peter Pan because I'm black," she said. Ma looked angry, but before she could speak, Nana said, "It seems that Natalie is another one who don't know nothing. You can be anything you want, Grace, if you put your mind to it." On Saturday, Nana told Grace they were going out. In the afternoon, they caught a bus and a train into town. Nana took Grace to a grand theater. The sign outside read Rosalie Wilkins in Romeo and Juliet in sparkling lights. "Are we going to the ballet, Nana?" asked Grace. "We are, honey, but first I want you to look at this picture." Grace looked up and saw a beautiful young ballerina in a tutu. Above the dancer, it said, "Stunning New Juliet." "That one is little Rosalie from back home in Trinidad," said Nana. "Her granny and me, we grew up together on the island. She's always asking me, do I want tickets to see her Rosalie dance? So this time, I said yes." After the ballet, Grace played the part of Juliet, dancing around her room in her imaginary tutu. "I can be anything I want," she thought. On Monday, the class met for auditions to choose who was best for each part. When it was Grace's turn to be Peter, she knew exactly what to do and all the words to say. She had been Peter Pan all weekend. She took a deep breath and imagined herself flying. When it was time to vote, the class chose Raj to be Captain Hook and Natalie to be Wendy. There was no doubt who would be Peter Pan. Everyone voted for Grace. "You were fantastic," whispered Natalie. The play was a big success, and Grace was an amazing Peter Pan. After it was all over, she said, "I feel as if I could fly all the way home." "You probably could," said Mom. "Yes," said Nana. "If Grace puts her mind to it, she can do anything she wants." So can you believe it? In this story, one of the reasons that a classmate thought Grace couldn't do something was because she was a girl. And another reason was because her skin is black. And I like the fact that Grace decided she was going to do the thing that she wanted to do anyway. Pretty good story, right? Now, let's look at the ways that we can continue to offer kindness to people that we don't even know. And this one's pretty fun. So, do you ever go to the Redbox machine and maybe pick out a movie to watch as a family? Sometimes we do that. And this idea works great if you're going to go to the Redbox. Do you have any popcorn sitting around at home? We have tons of microwave popcorn because we love it so much. So you grab a bag of popcorn, and then, remember how we used a Ziploc last week for our quarters? Grab another Ziploc bag, and I'm going to write a note on my Ziploc bag again. And it's going to say, enjoy your movie. All right. So see, it just says enjoy your movie. And then you can stick your popcorn inside the bag. And look at that. Now, when you go to the red box to check out your movie, you can just take this to the outside of the red box. And the next person that comes to get a movie, they'll get some popcorn to enjoy with their movie. Isn't that fun? Let me know if you do it and if it works out for you, okay? You could even sit in your car and see who gets it. Now, we need to look at our special Lenten cards. Should we do that? So, this card says Second Sunday of Lent. And the scripture lesson is one that sometimes I think is a little bit hard, because it talks about Jesus going up on a mountain and something mysterious happens with Jesus. So he starts to have kind of a light all around him, and his clothes turn super, super bright white. Now you have to remember that Jesus and his disciples walked around dusty streets all the time. So to have super, super white clothes would have been incredibly rare, right? So then, not only is Jesus standing there with kind of this light around him, there's some other folks that show up, Moses and the prophet Elijah. And they show up and they have this light around them too. And the disciples see all of this. And then the most mysterious thing of all happens. God is heard speaking to all of them. Now, this is a very mysterious story. And if you want to read it yourself, it's in the book of Mark, chapter 9, verses 2 through 9. But if we unpack the story a little bit, I think the easiest thing to take away from it is this idea. In the Bible, it's called being transfigured. But I think an easier way to think about it is transformation. And how we can all have special moments of transformation, right? So we've seen our flowers transform, right? They were just bulbs. We know how butterflies transform, right? They're a little guy that's this big, a little cute little caterpillar, and then they turn into a beautiful butterfly. And it all happens inside of a cocoon, so we really don't get to see it. These are all transformations. Every day, each one of us transforms a little bit because we all change just a little bit. And God is there for all of these transformations. And I think that's a great point to the story. So, let's read what it says in our confession. First, it says we're supposed to light all of our tea lights. So, I'm going to do that. And you can light yours. And then come on back. Okay, welcome back. Now, there's all of our lights. And the first thing we do is we read this confession. And it says, loving God, heal our hearts. transform our relationships, and transfigure our lives so that we too might dazzle and love and dream and live more like Jesus. Now it says that we get to blow out 3 of our lights. Here I go. There's 1. And that one, 2, 3. So there's our 3 lights that we got to blow out. And then it says, meditate. And remember, when we meditate, we're thinking about these words. Jesus was transfigured before them. His clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could ever bleach them. Do you have the picture in your mind of what that might be like? Yeah. So now, before we say the blessing at the end, let's take a look at some of the activities for the week that you could do as a family. So one of them says, see how it's got these little socks? And this is a good one because it got nicer out. But it says, go for a walk as a family. And as you go, play a game where you tell a story together. So one person starts the story and they say, once upon a time, there were 2 little kids. And then the next person gets to go. And maybe the next person says, and the 2 little kids also had a dog named Ralph. Do you see how it goes? And you keep going on and on while you're on your walk, and you make up a story together. Let's see what the next one is. Ooh, this one says to do some internet research. So it talks about how in the Bible, they say that Jesus' clothes were as white as lightning. So the idea here is that you go on the internet and you find out some cool facts about lightning. And if you want to, you could share those cool facts with me, and then I will put them in the newsletter so everybody can learn something new. This other one has a bike on it, and it might be a little too early to have our bikes out, but it says we can transfigure the world. And how do we do that? Well, maybe we ride our bike somewhere instead of driving, or maybe we walk somewhere instead of driving. Maybe you try a new recipe that's vegetarian instead of eating meat. There's all sorts of ways that you could try to transfigure the world. And again, I'd love it if you took a picture or told me about it, and we could share that with all of our friends. This one has to do with planting something, because it's a reminder that if you haven't planted your bulbs yet, this would be a great time to do it. And then our final one, remember last week how I had my cup of tea? This is to do your tea ceremony again. So you can get out your tea or your very favorite drink, and you sit down as a family, and you have a little discussion. And you talk about how Jesus' clothing was bright white. What's your favorite piece of clothing? Or have you had to be brave or courageous this week? And what did that feel like? And then it also asks you to think about something special you like about your own family and share that as a group. Aren't those fun things that you can do together? And these are all just great ways for us to remember that during Lent, we're really looking at the life of Jesus and how our lives can be a little bit more like Jesus. Let's close in prayer, okay? Our blessing this week says, may God bless you and keep you. May the radiant face of God shine upon you as you follow Jesus' bright and brilliant ways of truth and life. Amen. Have a super great week, you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.